I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm delightful. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, good.
So the actor Julian Horton, you know him as the character Roy on Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black.
Yes.
He posted something recently saying, to think before this show, the show being Beauty in Black, I was driving Uber and barely had $500 to my name, to now being a pivotal character on the #1 show in the world. There's no words to explain how great God is. All it takes is one, grateful forever. I thought that was sweet. I mean, I hate the character of Roy
Yes.
on the show, but I think it's nice that this actor is enjoying this success.
Of course, yes.
And it's interesting because our secret film, there was also an actor in that who had a similar-ish experience that, of course, we'll talk about later, but good for him.
Yeah, it's, of course, success to everybody. But, Tyler Perry's like, you thanking God and not me?
Wow.
I would think that Tyler Perry was the one responsible for your being plucked from obscurity.
And then you brought up the fact that the, I guess now canceled director Bryan Singer filmed a movie a few years ago.
Yeah, he shot a movie in 2023 it's actually playing now in theaters. I think it opened last week, starring Jon Voight as a Israeli architect named Yaakov. It's called Monument. Absolutely no marketing. I saw a news story about it, had absolutely no idea. Although, I'm not checking for Bryan Singer or Jon Voight, but after the fallout of Bohemian Rhapsody and Bryan Singer's sordid past details about it coming up during Me Too, I guess he moved to Israel and he's doing Kevin Spacey and doing work over there. But I mean, I have absolutely no interest in watching that, but how random and weird that it's just playing in theaters. I don't know.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Moving on to the restaurant section, it's light because we had a few repeat offenders last week. However, you discovered that Popeyes is now selling their sweet heat sauce.
You weren't with me in the store when I found it, but I often peruse the sauce aisle because I like sauces. And when I saw that Popeyes is selling their signature sweet heat sauce in a big old bottle, it was only $8.99, I believe. No one can tell me I can't have more hot sauce, more sweet heat ever again. It was I've been basically drinking it and ordering a lot of chicken tenders this week.
Well, some of these Popeyes locations are so raggedy, they're probably telling people, just go buy the bottle because we're not giving you any.
Do you remember when we've talked about this years ago, but I got excited when it was like, oh, Megan Thee Stallion's having a signature sauce. It's just the same sauce. They just slapped her name on it.
Wow.
When I went in there, because we lived in South Bay in Hawthorne, because the Popeyes by us, I went in and asked for that sauce. And they're like, it's just the same sauce. Damn.
Films released we didn't cover. Forbidden Fruits.
Forbidden Fruits. I think this was just it was at South by, I'm pretty sure. It's a horror comedy about a group of witches named Apple, Cherry, and Fig. And they have a new girl added to their group named Pumpkin who causes some discord. Lily Reinhardt's in it. I'm getting tired of horror comedies. Can we just have a horror film?
She Dances.
This Ethan Hawke is in it, and it's a new film starring Steve Zahn, who I guess co-wrote it, and his own daughter also is featured. I really like Steve Zahn and Ethan Hawke. I would be curious to catch up with that. It's gotten a lot of positive reviews. Sneak with Martin Green is also in it, who I like. Yeah, maybe eventually we'll catch up with it.
Fantasy Life.
An actor named Matthew Shear. It's his directorial debut, starring Amanda Peet. The premise is interesting to me because it's about Amanda Peet is an actor, and she has a dalliance with a law school dropout. But it would be nice to see her in a lead performance.
Holy Days.
I almost messaged you a couple times to see if you were interested in this because it's about a trio of nuns led by Jackie Weaver, Miriam Margolis, and Judy Davis, and set in New Zealand in the mid-70s. I mean, those three together, that's almost like an old Almodovar film.
Continental 25.
This is excellent. I saw this at Berlin in 2025. It's a Rado Jude film who, at this point now, has 1 to 2 films coming out every year. This Continental 25, it's a reference to the Rossellini film Europa 51. But it's set in the capital of Transylvania, and it's about a young woman who's a bailiff, and she's forced to evict this homeless guy who's squatting in the basement of some apartment, and there are severe ripple effects that come from this action. If you really liked Jude's Golden Bear winner, Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn, this approaches the same kind of territory. I like Bad Luck Banging more, but this, if you like him in kind of his signature style, this is must see.
A Magnificent Life.
I saw this at Cannes last year. Sylvain Chomet, who a beloved animator, Triplets of Belleville, is excellent. This is a animated version that's kind of getting into the life of Marcel Pagnol, who writer, director, highly influential, the turn of the century French creative, who had a series of films. I'm forgetting. There's Fanny. I'm forgetting the name of that. God, I reviewed that years ago, but that Daniela Toy tried to remake or remade 2 of those. Anyway, it was interesting because I actually don't know that much about him, and it made me curious to go back and revisit some other things of Pagnol's that I have not seen. But if you like Sylvain Chomet, of course, it's must see.
Our Hero Balthazar.
Directed by Oscar Boyson, starring Jaden Martell and Asa Butterfield, who looks kind of unrecognizable now as a young adult. This is being marketed as a Black comic version of Sovereign, which I'd be interested in catching up with.
Lastly, You're Dating a Narcissist.
This sounds fairly standard, but it's about a psychologist played by Marissa Tomei who tries to stop her daughter's impending wedding because guess what? She thinks he's a narcissist. Love Marissa Tomei. So, I would watch something just for her.
Projects of Interest, Time Out.
This is a remake of a 2001 film by Laurent Conté, written by Robin Campillo, the director of BPM. Conté is now dead. A couple of years ago now, but this was one of his signature earlier roles. And I'm really curious because not that I love Scott Cooper as a director per se, who directed Crazy Heart and last year's Springsteen movie, but the cast assembled for this kind of corporate thriller drama, from what I remember of the original, has Adam Sandler, Willem Dafoe, Gabby Hoffman, F. Murray Abraham, Steve Zahn, and Adam Horovitz of the Beastie Boys. What an odd cast assembled for this story. So I'm very curious.
Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. Carrie Ann Fleming died. She's an actress who I think was best known for the show Supernatural. She was 51 years old.
Oh, wow. That's young.
James Tolkien, a character actor who I think was best known for Back to the Future.
Yes.
Because he's in the first, second, and third one.
Isn't he the principal, the teacher?
Okay.
Oh, you recognize his face, I'm sure. He's a hard ass.
He died at the age of 94.
Mm-hmm.
Leonid Radvinsky died. He is the person who was majority owner of OnlyFans.
Oh.
He died at the age of 43.
Of what?
Yeah, of what?
Oh, death come knocking at my door. What's happening?
Oh, he was dealing with cancer for a long period of time that he kept secret. He's worth, at the time of his death, nearly $5 billion. Wow.
He was unmarried? Who did he leave all that to?
Lastly, Valerie Perrine, an American actress. She died at the age of 82.
We're going to talk a little bit about her movies we watch for fun because I caught up with Lenny finally, which was her Oscar-nominated role and for which she won Best Actress at Cannes that year back in 1974. You are familiar with her, actually. She has would you say, a pivotal role in Can't Stop the Music?
Oh, sure.
The Village People movie with Steve Guttenberg that is absolutely horrendously terrible. And I think that might have got her a Razzie nod. That is not what she should be known for, but you have seen her.
The secret film this week was my choice, and I chose the 2005 television film Riding the Bus with My Sister, starring Andie MacDowell and Rosie O'Donnell. It's directed by the great Anjelica Huston.
Yes.
What is it about? After their father's death, a woman spends time with her developmentally delayed sister.
Yes, that is the plot.
Why did I choose this movie? I'm not sure how it found its way onto my radar, but I added it to my watch list on Letterboxd. You can follow us there. And I've been saying I want to watch it for so long. And admittedly, I thought it would be a bit of a wreck, but it turns out I kind of loved this movie.
I thought it was incredibly heartwarming, which is not a word I even like to use, and sweet. And I think it definitely has its heart in the right place. And I think I'm surprised at the amount of ire that it received, sans, of course, an abled person playing the central character. But, you know, I believe in approaching everything within the context of which it was made and what was its purpose. And I think there is an audience out there that should definitely see this film. And I think if you've never had any kind of contact with a disabled person of any sort, there is a lot that is nuanced and resonant about it, actually.
I made sad tears. I made happy tears. To be clear, this is not a very well-made movie, so I'm not going to overlook that.
It's a Hallmark film, and very much of that ilk.
Yes.
And in defense of Ms. Huston, who this is the last feature she directed, albeit for television. She has two previous features. 1996's Bastard Out of Carolina, which I saw in the 6th grade. That's how I was introduced to Jenna Malone, stars Jennifer Jason Leigh. That is an incredibly harrowing film that I've been wanting to revisit. It's just so unhappy that I'm never in the mood to do it. But I remember renting it, watching it with my mother. And then she did a film called Agnes Brown, in which she also stars, and I've never seen that. And I think that the chilly reception of Riding the Bus with My Sister maybe put the kibosh on her going further. I think she did another short after this, but it's too bad because I think it is competently made. And again, its heart is in the right place, and it's far from perfect. Most films are not perfect, but I did find it enjoyable to sit through. And I think the two leads give maybe sometimes very earnest, but ultimately moving performances.
I agree with the performances. I don't know that I think it's competently made. This feels very much in line with a very standard Hallmark type movie.
Those are competent enough, right?
Sure, yeah, but there are shortcomings we'll get to. Riding the Bus with My Sister is based on the 2002 memoir of the same name by Rachel Simon. The film, like the book, is about the time Simon spent with her sister Beth, who has a developmental disability and whose lifestyle revolves around riding buses in her hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So Andie MacDowell plays Rachel Simon, and Rosie O'Donnell plays Beth Simon, the sister who has the disability.
Yes.
The story is very simple. Beth lives on her own, but requires some management, I would say.
Yeah, I think they use the word supervision in the film, but yeah, a little looking after, an anchor, if you will.
So her father was providing that, but he suddenly dies from a heart attack. We find out that she has a stepmother and a brother sister. So at the funeral, we see that they are really not trying to mess with Beth, Rosie O'Donnell's character.
The stepmother is really cold.
Oh, we need to get back to the stepmother.
It's Roberta Maxwell, who that same year starred as Jake Gyllenhaal's mother in Brokeback Mountain in a very memorable scene, giving me kind of Phyllis Diller vibes. Yeah.
I was thinking she reminded me of Phyllis Diller in that movie where she plays the graveyard mortuary assistant.
The Boneyard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lovely social worker who is Beth's case manager, and she's appealing to the family. Someone needs to stay and help get Beth sorted out.
Yeah, Stephanie Morgenstern, I believe.
Ultimately, it is Rachel, Andie MacDowell's character, who feels forced to stay. Mm-hmm. And their relationship is complicated, which we'll get to. But of course, ultimately, Rachel starts to better understand her sister and realizes that she can't really change her. And she just needs she should have always just loved her sister the way she was.
Exactly, as we all should do for everybody in our lives, and meeting her where she's at a bit, and not trying to change people.
I have so many notes. I just want to start with those.
Oh, let's jump into this. Let's get into this gig.
Like I said, I wonder if I overheard someone on another podcast mocking this movie, and that's how it came on my radar.
Based on the ire written about it on Letterboxd, that's probably true.
And when the film starts, I'm like, uh-oh, we're in trouble, because the opening credits, the score and the font they use.
Yes.
I was thinking, okay, so this is going to be a mess. Also, our first introduction to Beth, Rosie O'Donnell's character. I used to work in special education, and I have family members with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
She seems very familiar to me, this character who's based on a real life person. So I wasn't taken aback by the performance, but I think the editing lends itself to comedy, because there are abrupt cuts after Beth says something kind of snarky,
yes,
that I think betrays her actual personality. So the first like 5 minutes, because we see her getting ready in the morning, talking to herself in the mirror, and then she goes outside and she sees who we ultimately find out is her boyfriend, played by
Richard T. Jones,
Jesse. And the way she's communicating with him and saying, I need to get a new toilet seat, and we don't know who he is to her, and he seems like just a guy riding by like, okay, bitch, you need a toilet seat. So I think the opening doesn't do this film any justice.
The opening feels like we're ripping the Band-Aid off.
But immediately I warmed to Beth, because Beth is not slow.
No.
Beth has comebacks. We first see her downstairs neighbor complain like, God, you're always stomping down here like a hippopotamus. And Beth gets her ass together.
Yes.
We also see there's a man on the bus that Rachel rides every day, all day, who does not like her. And she gets his ass together. So Beth she has limitations, but she's very aware of what's going on, mm-hmm. what she wants. We ultimately learn that there's a lot of depth to her, mm-hmm. which we'll get to.
Well, because at the end of the day, Beth is someone who's just being herself.
We've talked about this before, and we shared a similar sentiment, but seeing people be nice to people always makes me emotional.
Same. Yeah.
And
that gets me more than anything else. Yeah.
Yes. And seeing all of the bus drivers, except for one, me and Eugene, but everyone else really has grown fond of Beth, and she's very invested in them. And you know, it's interesting because we see because a big plot point is that Beth doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of people on the bus every day who mock her and say mean things to her. And a common thread, even with Beth's sister, is she needs to get a job. But for Beth, with her limitations and her aversion to authority, it seems like her job is managing the bus, mm-hmm. which of course is not her real job, but we see that she really is invested. And I think it means a lot to the people who encounter her every day. And I thought that felt very special.
Yes, and kind of rare, actually, because especially the bigger city you're in where there really is no sense of community, you know, she would probably have a harder time here or New York, right, where it's very easy to slip through the cracks. So it's touching to see, yeah, there's some community involvement. And, you know, that's all we are to anybody is exposure and seeing each other's humanity. That's all it is to be human, is to not just witness each other, but, you know, be present.
Speaking of cities, this is supposed to be like a small town in Pennsylvania, but it's very clear this is shot in Toronto.
Oh, yes.
Because we see streets in Toronto. Also, the stops on the buses are Toronto streets. I thought that was funny.
I'd imagine this is, you know, zero budget for this to get made, which, you know, another thing about casting, you know, an able-bodied person in this role, Rosie O'Donnell, 2005. The thing is, we need to take a few steps back and realize that you need to we need to change the star and celebrity system, because that is what usually gets a budget for stories to get made, is somebody's attachment like that. And, you know, Rosie O'Donnell, I think people have some baggage about her and an aversion to her. And I grew up my whole life with the men around me calling her ugly. And she dives headfirst into this and in ways that I think also makes people uncomfortable. And I think it's what she brings to the role. I think it's really hard to do.
I think if this were in a bigger budget, glossier film and she gave the same performance, people would give her critical praise. I think she does a really good job.
She does, but there's always going to be that criticism that who is being cast in these roles. But again, this is now 20 years old. Things are very slowly changing, but we have to realize that how things get funded, especially now, Hollywood is crumbling. Things aren't getting made. The studios are only making tentpole pictures. So we really have to stop becoming the thing we hate, because then we're never going to see stories of anybody that's different at all ever, because we're arguing about the same points.
Her performance feels grounded in really good intentions. I don't know. It feels like she really cared about this character.
I agree. And yes, the we all know the path to hell is paved with good intentions. But again, you also have to meet the film, this collaborative piece of art, where it's at, where it's from as well. And I think that it's frustrating reading how out the gate people are so dismissive. You have seen worse films.
Well, it makes me think of a secret film we did not too long ago, Tiptoes.
Yes.
Where it's very clear that, and for people who didn't listen, Gary Oldman plays a little person. And the intention there is unclear. It's a mess of a movie. I don't get the sense that there was really any investment in making this character someone real.
I agree.
So the issues people have with Tiptoes, including myself, which we made fun of that movie up and down, I think is more warranted just because it's so unserious and I don't understand what it's trying to say. But this movie, it's very clear that it's a story about two sisters and learning how to accept people, or like you said, meet them where they are.
It's about two sisters reuniting, and of course, more so from the perspective of Rachel, who, again, sure, some of it is paint by numbers and large writing, but in the flashbacks we need to get into, but it's about a woman who hasn't processed the resentment she had as a child for her sister.
The film gets emotional very quickly because a social worker, Beth likes to go to the bus driver's break room to use the bathroom. And we need to get back to her in the bathroom because there's a funny scene involving that. But she is at her normal spot at the bus driver break room. And her social worker, her caseworker comes in and says, I need to talk to you about what? Your dad. What about my dad? He's in the hospital. He had a heart attack. And I thought Rosie O'Donnell did a fabulous job of emoting. When she gets to the hospital, of course, her character is very upset. And I thought a powerful moment was her stepmother, the hospital staff trying to calm her down. And I think that's something that I noticed a lot when I worked in special education is people seem uncomfortable with how someone like a Beth behaves.
Because they're violating the social norms of behavior, especially in the public realm. People don't know how to respond.
Right. And it's interesting because oftentimes, like in Beth's case, she's just very social. She's loud, but
there's a lot of loud people out there.
There are a lot of loud people out there. And it's very interesting to me because I find that people who we would consider not disabled are more annoying and more obnoxious and more socially inappropriate.
And more in violation of the social code.
Beth is just being social and saying hello to people. And in this instance with her dad, she is very upset. And that was the first tear I shed.
Yeah.
Was Beth at the hospital, because the minute she gets in there, she's screaming, where's my daddy? And I couldn't hold it in.
I mean, is that any, Shirley MacLaine does the same thing in terms of endearment, tearing those nurses a new asshole.
Right. And then my heart broke again because Beth called her sister Rachel to tell her dad is dead.
Yeah.
Like, damn. And then we see that Rachel, played by a very beautiful Andie MacDowell.
Beautiful with that mane of hair everywhere, yes.
It's very clear she doesn't know how to deal with her sister. And I think now would be a good time to talk about these flashbacks.
Oh my.
They are, I don't think, very well done.
Okay, which is so sad to me because there's a brilliant cinematographer here, Anthony B. Richmond, who, I mean, is responsible for two of Nicholas Roeg masterpieces, including The Man Who Fell to Earth and Don't Look Now, which you've seen both of those. He also did Candyman for Bernard Rose. Again, budget TV movie. Those flashbacks, they're not doing it.
That being said, the casting does work well because they have to cast Beth and Rachel as maybe like 5 or 6 year olds.
Mhm.
And then we also see them again as teenagers.
Yes.
So they do put the effort into that. But in the flashbacks, we realize a few things. First, that Rachel is embarrassed by her sister, doesn't want to feel responsible to her. We see that their mother puts a lot of pressure on Rachel to take care of her sister. And Rachel seems to have an aversion to that because we see
I mean,
a plot point for Beth's character is that she eats junk food. And we see when she's younger, she eats things that aren't even edible, like dirt and paint.
I mean, I felt that my one sibling, she's 6 years younger, and I've talked about this before, but I mean, I felt like there were things there's a very anxious avoidant attachment style going on in the house I grew up in. But all of a sudden, as a teenager, I'm saddled with taking care of this little kid while my parents are working. And I resented the hell out of her then because it's like, I didn't ask for her to be here. And also my needs aren't getting met. So,
well, you were
I
young, so that's, a very reasonable, immature response to that.
Yes, of course, but you're supposed, as you grow, this is the problem when people don't process things. And
well, I think that's the issue with Rachel
yes.
is that her feelings about her sister aren't totally unreasonable. Like it's a lot to deal with, Beth, and I'm a kid and my mom her mom tells her forever, like you have to do this forever to a 7-year-old.
Like,
that's
no. But I think that's a little bit of the power of the film, though, is that it's being honest about these feelings.
I was going to mention, talking about food, we watched this on Tubi, and so we got to see ads, and I'll get to a couple of them. The first one is Jack in the Box has a burger called the Hot Mess.
Mm-mm.
It's a seasoned beef patty, white cheese sauce, shredded pepper jack, pickled jalapenos, and onion rings on sourdough. Now, if that were homemade, I would say I would definitely try it. But the name Hot Mess, what a terrible name for a food product.
That's what it's going to do in your underwear. You're going to be a hot mess going in and out, I guess.
Okay, the tears kept coming because we get to the funeral. And Beth is there with her boyfriend, Jesse.
Mm-hmm. Richard T. Jones is so sad in this.
Oh, I don't want to forget to mention, for people who haven't seen this, I do recommend it. It's on Tubi for free. If you do watch this movie, it's required that you immediately follow it up with Why Did I Get Married?
And watch Mr. Jones abuse the hell out of Jill Scott.
Because his character as Jesse versus him as Mike in Why Did I Get Married? It's like, that is a brilliant actor.
Richard T. Jones is a character actor who's been around a long time. I remember seeing him pop up in a tons of stuff in the 90s, like The Trigger Effect. He is versatile, but I don't think I've ever seen him so sad.
But at the funeral, the priest, I guess, is saying that it's tradition that everyone from the family contribute to covering the body with dirt. So they're at the graveside, and I believe first it's the stepmother, then the brother, Rachel, and when it's Beth's turn, she doesn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And Jesse's comforting her. Again, I had more tears.
Yeah.
Oh God. When the case manager meets with the family, I was so frustrated. And the stepmom ain't shit because you married a man. Okay, so we need to give the backstory on the dad. Mm-hmm. He left the mom.
Fell in love with another woman.
Left those 3 kids with the mom, and then later took the 2 older kids and left Beth with the mom. Mm-hmm. We never find out what happened to the mom, though.
No, it's very vague on some details, some family history. If I was doing her charts, I'd have lots of questions.
Well, I also wanted to know, later in life, the dad who had abandoned Beth decides to be her kind of main caregiver. Mm-hmm. And I would have liked context as to whether or not he felt like guilty and
Yeah, suddenly felt responsible as
Yeah, I mean, we can make that assumption, but it would have been nice to get some
some
context.
kind of shift happened. And they seemed to, because he has a nickname for Beth, he calls her the sheriff.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to, she only wants to do what she wants to do.
It is
But
difficult.
the point I was trying to make is you married a man who had this adult daughter who requires special attention,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't want to have shit to do with
You're
her.
just going to wash your hands of her.
But that's an interesting parallel to Rachel's boyfriend
Yes.
because
He didn't even know Rachel had a sister.
no,
which
and
was reminding me of Tiptoes. That's a character flaw in Tiptoes as well.
and she didn't invite him to the funeral. And we had already seen them share a scene where he wants to have kids and she's apprehensive.
She goes, yeah, in a couple years we'll adopt a Chinese baby.
Basically.
Okay.
But then you start to realize that maybe she has an aversion to being a nurturer caretaker because of her experience with her younger sister.
When she told him at that chilly dinner scene that we already have a good life, immediately with the details I already had of like, oh, she probably had to parent her sister and she doesn't want to have a kid.
But the boyfriend tells Rachel basically like, bitch, I can't have kids with a woman who won't even take care of her sister. And I thought, good for you.
Yes, I think their relationship was already kind of scuttled by then.
Wow, but we need to get back to their relationship because the end of this movie is so like, oh, okay, we're done.
It's abrupt, yes.
But, oh my gosh, watching Rachel and Beth together, there are funny moments, like Rachel trying to get Beth to eat healthy. Honey, you saw your sister eating paint and dirt, and now all she drinks is soda and eat cookies and candy.
Oh, donuts, lots of donuts.
Donuts. She likes to get cola and put like Swedish fish in them.
Oh,
and we see them go to the grocery store, and of course, Andie MacDowell carrying all these vegetables, and Beth is like, "Ooh, these bags don't feel the same as when I carry my groceries."
Real food's heavy.
But Beth tells her sister, "I don't know why you're buying this because I'm not going to cook it." And of course, she's still at this early in their sort of situation, Rachel's being very stubborn. But when they get back to Beth's house, we see that her stove is covered in clothes. And Rachel's like, this is a fire hazard. And she's like, no, it's fine because the stove doesn't work. Like I told you, I wasn't going to cook your shit.
Oh.
I like Rosie O'Donnell in this role because I do think she brings some comedy to it that feels respectful.
I agree.
Like she's not mocking this lady, but Beth is sharp.
I think the tone of the film is earnest. I don't know that the performance is the same way, in the same vein as earnestness. It's not schmaltzy or overly sentimental. I think it feels like these are real reactions.
Well, a good example of that is we see Beth on the bus, and I believe it's the scene where there's this lovely Black woman on the bus who clearly is used to Beth, and she's very pregnant and tells Beth, like, you can feel my belly if you want because the baby's kicking, and Beth gets very excited. But Beth tells the bus driver, oh, I can't have kids because I had my tubes tied, which felt heartbreaking because she's saying it like she's lamenting it. But then she immediately follows it up with, but that means I can raw dog my boyfriend, basically.
Basically, yes.
So I felt like that scene with Rosie O'Donnell, it just worked really well.
I was happy to see that it doesn't shy away from the components of sexuality that are realistic to all humans because it's human nature.
So this script is lacking a lot of details. One in particular that I feel it kind of drops is Beth's case manager, who I'm assuming is a social worker, is also paired with another social worker who's not very nice. And they have their first meeting with Beth and Rachel. And it's established that someone needs to monitor her for 3 months so we can evaluate if Beth can really be independent or if she needs to go to a group home.
Right, which seems so arbitrary, and I don't know what that's based on.
Well, yeah, the film doesn't give us any of that. And then as the film goes on, we never really, it doesn't stick to a timeline. In fact, Rachel a couple of times decides to just go back home. So it's like, well, what happened to this care plan we were trying to work out? But at that initial meeting, Rachel's being kind of funky with Beth because she's annoyed by what Beth is saying. But someone says something and Rachel goes, Beth has a family. Oh, because the social worker says that the bus drivers and the people on the bus are effectively Beth's family.
Mhm.
And Rachel gets funky saying, well, Beth has a family. So that other social worker goes, oh, well, so then you can stay and help her then.
Yep.
Gotcha,
Okay.
bitch. That was good. That was very good. What wasn't good, and I know it's because this was not a big production, but a lot of the people in the background walking the city streets were clearly not paid extras.
Hello, Toronto.
Because they are just fully staring at Beth and Rachel.
The screenwriter is Joyce Eliason, who passed a couple years ago. She wrote The Jacksons, An American Dream, that television miniseries.
Ooh.
Also producer on Mulholland Drive. So there's so many interesting people involved in this.
Again, it has the Hallmark sheen, which there is a formula. So I appreciate that it's not going to give us like an in-depth. So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
When we learn that Rachel's boyfriend wasn't invited to the wedding and didn't know she had a sister with a disability, he tells her, maybe I could have helped you with this, but it's too late now.
Ooh, well.
And I thought, okay, you need to learn from this.
And I like that the scene. So she decides to go back to Beth, and she kind of explains, like, I left my boyfriend for you. She's mourning that fact too. You can tell, and I think Andie MacDowell is also an underrated performer. You just saw Sex, Lies, and the Videotape for the first time, which I think she's excellent in, and I also really like her in Shortcuts. But there's regret that you're reading there.
Yeah. Even Beth shows a lot of empathy.
Well, what does she say? That's sad for you.
Yeah, yeah. She's just very literal.
Yeah, like when you see a lot of actors portraying neurodivergent characters, I have to bring up my bestie Sigourney Weaver in Snowcake, where the response is just that is exactly what they're feeling right now.
Yeah. I think my favorite lighthearted scene in the film is right after the exchange Rachel and Beth have about Rachel breaking up with her boyfriend, and she wants to stay the night at Beth's, and Beth is like, well, you can't because I have a date with Jesse. We're going to go do this. We're going to have dinner, go get snow cones, come back, watch Animal Planet, and then fool around. And Rachel's like, well, bitch, I'm here for you, so you need to include me.
You wanted me to be here.
Right. Beth goes, well, okay, you can come to dinner with us, but you have to pay, okay? Rachel says, okay. So we had heard earlier in the story that there's a restaurant that won't let Beth use the bathroom because she's not a customer. Mm-hmm. And Beth sees this restaurant as like a fine dining restaurant, but it's really just a really basic restaurant. So of course, Beth wants to go there. And the server is really annoyed with Beth. Like she doesn't like her behavior. Mm-hmm. So it's time to order. And before Beth will give the order, she goes, oh, but first I have to go to the bathroom. She gets up and kind of like shoulder checks that server.
Petty bitch.
She's petty, but she's smart.
Right. Yes. Yeah, of course.
I liked it. We finally meet Mean Eugene, the bus driver who doesn't like her. And it's a scene where Beth takes Rachel to the bus driver's break room.
And he's put a handwritten sign up that says bus drivers only.
Yeah. And he starts yelling at her and telling everyone, like, you're allowing this crazy behavior. She doesn't belong here. And one of the bus drivers, I think his name is Prodlip. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He tries to defend her, and it's clear all the drivers like her and they don't mind that she's there. But also, yeah, they're probably not following the rules by having her there. But I think that's kind of the first time Rachel sees that she really is involved with these people, because Beth goes around and tells Rachel about all of them. And it's like, she really does know these people.
Yeah. What's touching about that, I think, is, we all go about our daily lives, and it's rare that you find people that, one, listen to anything you might have to say, and then also remember details about your life. That's kind of a rare experience.
Another really good scene is Beth is on the bus with Rachel, and a couple of people are being really mean to Beth, saying that she needs to work and she's just mooching off the system, and the bus driver shouldn't even be letting her take this route because she doesn't have a zone 1 pass. And we didn't mention the most handsome bus driver in New England happens to be one of the bus drivers Beth rides, this guy named Rick.
Played by D.W. Moffat.
Who you read that
I think he said he was living in his car at the time, which is Strange, sir, because he had a lot of film credits before this. But hey, I mean, it's hard out here. It's hard in this industry. So I guess I believe it. But he reminded me of a friend of mine from college, but very sweet, this character.
He's the driver of the bus where these people are sort of being mean to Beth. And he pulls the bus over and he gets up and says, listen, it's my responsibility to keep everyone safe. And I can't do that when y'all just want to sit here and be mean.
Mm-hmm.
So can we be nice? And also, Beth does have a zone 1 pass. Show him, girl. And then she pulls out her zone 1 pass. I was screaming. But we see Rachel be very impressed with Rick. And that's where you can tell that maybe a little romance might start.
Mm-hmm.
I was very disappointed with the trajectory of Rachel and Rick, which we'll get to. Another plot point that's not really developed is we see there's some pervert who follows Beth around.
Yeah, that is mentioned and then not brought up again. And that was alarming.
It was extremely alarming. There's this creep in a car with like a stuffed animal trying to give it to Beth. And Rachel's like, who the hell is that? Beth says, some creep who follows me. He makes me uncomfortable. And then she throws the toy away. And that's the end of it.
That's the end of it.
Which I think is so strange because a big plot point for why Rachel even has to be there is regarding Beth's safety.
Yes. And can she be independent? Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I guess we're not going to address that.
Well, you know, she doesn't get into the car and she would know to run away.
That's a good point. Maybe the purpose of that was to show that she knows enough to avoid.
Yeah, she understands that there's something wrong with this behavior and this attention, and she'll keep it moving.
Speaking of danger, Beth and Jesse are supposed to have a date night, and Rachel's going to cook dinner for them. So we see Rachel cooking what looked like is going to be some very bland spaghetti. And Jesse hasn't shown up, and Beth starts freaking out. And at the same time, we see that Jesse is being mugged in an alley by 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, though, earlier in the story, we saw that Jesse has a black belt in karate. He can't get like the higher degrees because that would require he hold weapons. And to be clear, Beth's boyfriend, Jesse, also has a developmental disability, but he can fight.
Yeah.
So he beats those guys up, but he also gets injured and ends up in the hospital. But I thought that was a really emotional scene because Beth knows her man.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, he would never be late. There is something wrong. And she makes Rachel go with her to try to find him. And they contact some people and find out he's in the hospital. And I thought her seeing him in the hospital, it was all very sweet.
Yes, I agree.
The tables sort of turn at a point because Beth seems to become jealous of Rachel because she interprets everyone liking her sister more than herself. And she's being kind of a brat. And Rachel blurts out, sometimes I just hate you.
Which, you know, that's a true feeling.
you know what it felt like? It felt like she needed to clear that blockage.
I think so, yes.
She needed to expiate that demon and move on. But the result is that Rachel ends up leaving for a little bit.
And again, distance is also helpful between people, between siblings. And that statement you just made, ostensibly, that is also a passage of dialogue in this film between Richard T. Jones and Andie MacDowell.
They have a really sweet scene, yeah.
Because she pulls up when she's on her way to leave shortly after this to go back to New York. And he says that was advice that his mother gave him. Basically, every day you put your best foot forward, and then you just see what the next day brings and start from there.
Oh, his character is so sweet, but so sad.
Yeah, I kept wondering if we were
missing something
about what's really going on with him.
Yeah.
I also think, it's interesting. We have this interracial couple as well. And Beth's talking about how sexy Will Smith is. I don't know. I think it's just interesting and being as honest as it can be with sentiments and emotions and feelings. And
well, actually, Rachel asks Beth, what do you know about love? Why do you love Jesse? Because in that same scene where she says, I love Will Smith, or that she wants to do something, like she was kind of saying like she would like to be physical with Will Smith, but then Rachel kind of clocks her and she goes, well, no, because I love Jesse. I don't love Will Smith. I don't even know him. Well, what do you think love is? And what Rachel describes as love, I thought was For her, it made sense. And also, what she gets from Jesse is a lot more than what a lot of y'all get from your significant others.
Yeah, they
So
care
who am
for
I
each
to
other.
question Beth? She seemed very happy. She's very attentive to him. When they're at dinner at that restaurant where Beth makes a point to go to the bathroom, while she's gone, the server brings a glass of wine for Rachel and Jesse. And when Beth sees the wine, she freaks out like, you can't let him drink. He's on medication. You got to be more careful. So she really is attentive, detail oriented.
She's looking out. Yeah.
She just wants to do what she wants to do for herself. That's her problem. You made a funny comment because Rachel's character, we didn't even mention, seems to be a very successful and highly sought after photographer.
But it's in a nascent sense. She keeps saying, I'm very busy, very important. I have so much stress with my business.
Well, even her assistant, when he picks up the phone, is like, studio?
I was like, what?
Rachel takes a lot of photographs and we see them and they're not very good.
It's like the flashbacks. Like, could we have, these are bad.
But it reminded me of another movie we made a podcast for called Mama, I Want to Sing, starring Sierra, Lynn Whitfield, Patti LaBelle.
You know, on my letterbox that year, I think that was the most, that was the selection that was the most obscure. You know how Letterboxd will give you.
Oh, really? Because in that movie, I believe it's Sierra's brother who's a photographer. And we see him taking, because Sierra's like this pop star a la Britney Spears or something. Or I guess you could say like Sierra. He's her personal photographer. And we see the photos he takes and they are not good. You are not good at your job, man.
No.
Rachel leaves after she tells her sister, sometimes I just hate you. But Rick, the sexy bus driver, calls Rachel and says, you know, your sister's birthday's coming. It'd be really great if you could be here. I'm going to throw her a surprise party. She's been really sad since you left.
And then it's at the moment where Andie MacDowell goes back to New York after this riff, that is when the film just compounds itself into the end.
Oh, it kicks it into high gear, baby. Like turbo boost.
It's like, oop, we got to get to the end in 2 minutes.
We have one more commercial. We got to get it done. But we see Rachel come back and she wants to get Beth dolled up for her birthday. She bought her a dress. And to be clear, Rosie O'Donnell as Beth wears shorts, tennis shoes, baggy t-shirts, not a stitch of makeup. Her hair is just naturally curly.
Shirts with kittens on them.
And Rachel takes her and gets a full updo, full beat, and then expects her to put on a dress. So we see that Beth is uncomfortable. And when we get back to Beth's house for her to put the dress on, she comes out of the bathroom and she has fully washed off all her makeup and combed her hair out.
Yes.
But I think that was an important moment for Rachel to understand that you just need to let this lady be comfortable. Just let her do what she wants to do.
Oh my God, what a world if we could just all be our most comfortable selves.
But I just thought it was so sweet that for Beth's birthday, Rick and the other bus drivers basically surprised her on the bus and had a party in the park. But Rachel taking her sister to the park, she's like, wait,
what's that bus doing here?
That's the 5 bus or the 6 bus. That shouldn't be here. It should be over here at this time. So Beth is on one, confused as to why this bus is here. And when she gets on the bus to see what's what, all of her friends from the bus and the drivers are there and they, you know, wish her a happy birthday and have a cake and they have a big party. And again, this movie does a good job of keeping my emotions up and down because it was such a happy moment. And then the black lady on the bus who was pregnant had her baby. So she wants to show Beth her baby. And Beth says, can I hold it? And immediately Rachel goes, oh no, that's like, babies are delicate. You can't hold the baby. But the mother is like, yeah, of course you can hold my baby. Because we had seen her be very delicate with the mom's belly. And she knows her. So she lets her hold it. And then I think the saddest scene of the movie to me is after her birthday, we see Beth and Rachel back in Beth's apartment, and Beth is on the bed eating cake as you do.
Nothing is worse than when you're sad and still want to eat the cake.
Well, I mean, I'm the expert at that, but
I'm like, I want to feel good eating this.
And Rachel recognizes, like, are you sad? Yes. What's wrong? And we already knew Beth had her tubes tied. She tells her sister she's sad that she can't have a baby.
Yeah.
And then we get a flashback to maybe like 10 years earlier, when we find out that Rachel is the one who convinced
Rachel and their father.
And the father convinced Beth to get her tubes tied after she started dating Jesse, which now that I'm thinking about it, Jesse and Beth have been together for 10 years
No.
or longer. That's impressive. But yeah, Beth is sad that she can't have a baby, which I think the moment that the two sisters share afterwards is really sweet. Like
Yes.
Rachel's trying to be tender with her.
Mm-hmm.
That was really nice.
It's not, and again, the caseworker speaking about the food Beth likes to eat, saying like, it's her body, her choice. But then this choice was taken away from her.
Well, and in the flashback, when Rachel and the dad are trying to convince her, well, we get two scenes. We get Rachel telling Beth,
they're browbeating her.
Well, they're saying you can't even hook your own bra.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear Beth say, well, they make bras without hooks. So when we flash back to present day, Beth is crying to her sister saying, you thought I was too stupid to hook my bra.
Yeah, she remembered that.
That hit me hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a scene in the hospital when Beth is being carted to surgery and she's screaming at the attendants wheeling her like, I changed my mind. But the anesthesia is kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
So she loses consciousness. But I thought that was very sad because I feel like if the patient's saying I changed my mind on this elective surgery, someone should have stopped that damn gurney. But,
Exactly.
Let's take a break with another commercial because there's a medication called Ebglyss to treat eczema. And the tagline is, you can flare less with Ebglyss. And it features a bootleg cover of Mary J. Blige's Real Love that was very upsetting to me.
The sacrilege is that cover. That is terrible. Oh.
Getting back to this turbo boost ending. Beth and Rachel go to the social workers and Beth gets cleared to, I guess, live independently. I didn't quite understand.
I was like, wait, how did you prove that? Okay.
We also see Rachel has an exhibit at a photo gallery, and it's all the pictures she took of her sister and people in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Reminded me of John Waters' Pecker.
Or what's that movie I didn't like with Dan Levy?
Good grief.
Where he painted those ugly portraits of his friends.
He stenciled. He
He didn't even paint them. He traced portraits
He's
of
not
his
a painter.
friends.
He's a stenciler.
Oh my God.
He's a memoirist and a stenciler.
At the gallery showing, Rachel's ex shows up and they like reconnect. And then the final scene of the movie is Rick, Rachel, and Beth are at the beach frolicking.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just learned that Rachel's pregnant.
Yep.
What happened to Rick? I am very upset about Rick not finding,
I don't know,
a little piece.
Rick was a little too, what's the word? Rick was, I feel like there's maybe some red flags because we learn he has a son that he doesn't have custody of, that he doesn't talk about. Rick had a hard knock life that we didn't quite get into.
You're right. Yes. Well, also the fact that he's willing to be so invested in this sister duo and their issues, but he's good looking enough that you could overlook a few. You can
overlook a few things, but not forever. When tax season comes around, I can't overlook some things. I'm sorry.
The themes, independence versus control. Obviously, I think Beth's story challenges this idea that people with disabilities need to be tightly managed.
Mm-hmm.
Redefining normal. I think we really see that for Rachel because she's so uncomfortable with Beth's life that she sees as unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like she's not recognizing that it's fulfilling for her.
Yes.
If you take a step back, it's like, this lady seems more happy than you do. So,
but I think that drives people crazy because if they see somebody like Beth and they think they're automatically better than them and see them being cheerful and happy and going about their day unfettered, that drives people crazy.
Well, I will admit that sometimes I've often been told from people who I consider less responsible than myself that they don't want my life. Like they don't want to have to do the things I've done.
Great.
And then I feel like, well,
and
that's why you're on the struggle bus.
Right. Well,
and I don't mean like I've done these great things. It's just I checked all the boxes, right? Like I'm supposed to get an education, a career, start a business, get married, buy a house, like all that they have good credit, all the things that I was told I'm supposed to do. I did those things and it just happened to work out. So I can see myself, if I didn't have the experiences I had, being somewhat of a Rachel, being frustrated that my sister is not checking those boxes and being unable to see that she's fulfilled. And maybe I'm just a hater because I wish I could keep it simple.
To each their own. I mean, we can only be, and I feel like I've said this before because I heard this in some movie recently, but chasing happiness is high. If somebody is content, it's so hard to be content in the moment, and you only have today. In trying to rob other people of that for whatever kind of cynical bullshit is going through your own mind that you're projecting on those around you, you can F off with that.
Another theme, family responsibility. That's probably the biggest one in my mind. And it's really more about Rachel's journey to.
Yes, the film Riding the Bus with My Sister, it's her perspective.
Yeah, her not just stepping up, but like
she has the character arc. She goes on the journey.
Well, she learns how to show up for her sister.
Yes, and it feels a little too truncated in the ending because I almost wanted to hear more from Rachel, like mourning, like I lost, almost like at the beginning of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, right? It's like we could have been friends all along, like all these lost years over this shit that I carried on to, this resentful adolescent bullshit that's has hovered over me for all these years.
Yeah, but I do think ultimately her being able to see her sister beyond whatever labels have been put on her is lovely.
And Rachel asked Jesse what she loves about Beth, and he said she's funny. And I think that's the other thing about humans is if you're really watching people unobserved, people are kind of funny. If you're watching people in their own element, yeah, and I think that's one of the glorious things about being able to be live is if you get to kind of witness the reality of others and when they're in a good place, primarily, life can be really funny and sweet.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about Riding the Bus with My Sister?
I'd say give it a chance, meet it where it is, and that's that. It's not the best film ever made by far, but it's enjoyable and touching.
What would you give it?
2.5.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5, but I do recommend it. And you must watch Why Did I Get Married right after.
Making Jill Scott buy two seats on the plane. She's not that big.
Okay, what do we have coming this week? I don't know.
The Drama with Robert Pattinson and Zendaya.
Okay.
And I think we have a Faces of Death screening.
Okay.
And then I don't know. I haven't had a conversation with you about other releases, about what else you're willing to cover. But I really love this Brazilian film called The Blue Trail that comes out this next week too.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I started reading Diary of a Chambermaid by Octave Mirbeau, which I've been wanting to read for forever. But Cannes is going to be announcing its lineup, or start announcing its lineup, I believe April 9th. And Radu Jude has done an adaptation of that. So I'm reading it ahead of that. But there are, Louis Buñuel, Jean Renoir, Benoit Jacquot all have major adaptations of that classic novel. And I've just started cracking into it, but I think I'm loving it. Anyway, excited to see what Jude does with that.
All done?
Yes.
Ta-ta.